How can you use reflective listening to support your relationships with students? You're going to learn how right now. Hi, everybody. I'm Lee Hall from Literacy Teachers, and I'm all about helping you inspire, motivate, and change how your students read and write for academic success. Today, Erin Silcox is with us to share about the concept of reflective listening, what that can do to enhance your relationships with students, and what it looks like in practice. So let's go hear what she has to say.
The basic concept of reflective listening is that you listen well enough to what somebody is saying that you can reflect it back to them in a way that is pretty darn accurate and shows them that you're listening. Doing so can accomplish three things. First, when you listen reflectively, you're listening so well to somebody that you actually hear their perspective and are able to repeat it back to them. The second thing is that when you repeat it back to them, no matter what type of sense they're making, or if they're really being honest or not, you reflecting back to somebody what they're saying to you helps them to clarify what they're trying to say and get their own point across appropriately and accurately. And the third thing is that listening reflectively builds trust between you and troubled students or students who are just having a hard time and need to be listened to by showing them that they're being heard and just allowing them to sort of reflect on what is bothering them so much. It's kind of like writing in a journal. Before you go into writing a journal entry, you are scatterbrained and things are all over the place. And by the time you're finished writing in that journal, you sort of have this sense of clarity and things are calm for you. And you might have a understanding what direction to go in. So that's the idea behind reflective listening and reasons why it works. Let's talk about how to do this well. First, you want to start with being as close to one-on-one with a student as you can. You really want to do this in private and ideally totally alone. And, be careful because you never really want to be alone with a student. So leave the door open if you need to or have another trusted adult in the room. But make sure that you're trying to create a sense of privacy for that student so that they don't feel like they have an audience, because oftentimes an audience is something that will rile a student up further. So you can do this in the hallway if possible. You can probably find like a closet to sit in. I don't know if you have like a private corner in your classroom where maybe all the other kids are working collaboratively and you've got some like whispering you can do with the other kid. I'm not sure what your situation looks like, but think to yourself for a moment, where can I go with a student who really needs to be heard and who really needs to sort through something that is private? Next, allow the student to stand, sit, walk around, do whatever it is that you can that's safe and appropriate that will get them talking. And in this first part, no matter if the student's in trouble, no matter, like I said before, if they're totally making stuff up, the point here is that you listen to what they have to say and they start to get whatever it is off their chest and start to feel heard. In this phase, you're not trying to guide the conversation. You're just trying to gather information and start to get for yourself a picture of like what's going on in the student's head that's either getting them all worked up or did get them all worked up in the first place before. And sometimes you can do these conversations well after the fact, maybe, a couple hours later or the next day. You don't want it to be too far removed because you want it to be fresh in their memory. But anyway, so that's another sort of the second part of it is listen to their story, the first part of their story, whatever that is. Once they get talking, try to let a natural pause come in the conversation where they stop talking. And that's the point where you can reflect back on them what you heard them saying. I like to use the phrase, what I'm hearing you say is, followed by what they said, and then, is that correct? Am I hearing you right? And do you want to add anything else? Is that what's going on for you? Those kinds of questions. And then you can kind of start guiding it if you want to. Once they've clarified, yeah, that's what I'm saying, they might come along and say, I have more to add to that, or no, you got this detail wrong. But after you've settled on What are you saying? Is this what you're saying? Okay, clarify with you and make sure I'm hearing you right. Then you can start to move into gathering a little bit more information. So, who was involved? What happened? Where was it? Why did it happen? Why do you think it happened? And then you can kind of move into this process to get more information. But at first, you're really not guiding much. You're not asking many questions except, am I hearing you right? Is this what you're saying? So this kind of takes a long time. Sometimes, if they have a lot to say, if there was a long winded story, or if you're just not hearing them right, or if they can't figure out what they're trying to say. But at the very end, when you've gotten their story and you have clarified it with them a couple different ways, a couple different times, and they're really settled on, okay, yeah, that's what happened, or that's what's going on for me, and then you can start to problem solve. Then you can start to bring in your own perspective and kind of think about what happened, why did it happen, and what are you going to do differently next time, or what do you need from me? That kind of thing. To clarify, when you're kind of having this wrap up part of the conversation where you're problem solving, you still need to listen reflectively whenever they start to bring in more elements to their story. Okay, is this, you said this, is this what I'm hearing? Is this right? And then clarify over and over again. Reflectively listening shows students that A, you're listening to them and they're being heard, which is rare for a lot of kids, and B, you care about what they have to say, and that you don't necessarily have to admit that you believe them because you might sense that they're not being truthful. That's when you kind of triangulate and bring other folks in to get their perspective after reflective listening. Don't try to prove the student wrong. And just that sense of feeling heard is just going to skyrocket that relationship. So if you like this video, click here for the next one.